What's up, my project managers? How you doing today? A couple of weeks ago, I put out a video on project management basics for admins, for people who are new to project management. And I got a couple of follow-on questions regarding the exams I talked about, entry-level exams I mentioned. So I talked about the PMP exam and I talked about the CAPM exam. But it seems like there's some misunderstandings about both exams. So I want to clarify what exactly these exams are about. So we're going to be breaking these down one by one. To do that, I would like you to follow me to a link for the CAPM exam first before we talk about the PMP exam. All right, so do me a favor and go to this URL. It's tinyurl.com/CAPM Handbook. Right there. You see it? tinyurl.com/CAPM Handbook. So that's the first link. We're going to talk about the CAPM exam first, and then we'll talk about the PMP exam. All right? So if you're a PMP, you're already certified, this call probably isn't for you. If you're a CAPM, this call probably isn't for you if you're already certified. This is for people who are new to the PMI, they've never heard about the CAPM, or they've heard about it and they've got questions, all right? So the PMI have got a number of exams for project management. The first one I'm going to talk about, like I said, is the CAPM, because the requirements for the CAPM are pretty straightforward. In order to get a CAPM, if you follow me to the handbook, hopefully you've downloaded it, and you've got something like this on your device. I'm going to go through the requirements to get CAPM certified. Okay? So if you follow me to page 6 of the document, it says, to be eligible for the CAPM certification, you must meet certain educational and professional experience requirements. At a minimum, you need a high school diploma or global equivalent and must meet one of the following eligibility requirements. I've told my daughter the moment you get to that level where you got your high school diploma, your dream of getting a certification from the PMI can come true. You see, it doesn't require a whole lot of education, you see. If you've got a high school diploma, that's the first requirement. And now there are two categories. The first option is, in addition to your high school diploma, you have 1,500 hours of professional experience on a project team. That means you're working on a project as part of a team. You do not have to be the project manager, okay? So if you've got your high school diploma and you've worked on a project team, you're eligible. Working on a project team for 1,500 hours. Now you might ask, what is 1,500 hours? It sounds like a whole lot of time. But the 1,500 hours, if you add it up, 40 hours a week, we're talking roughly about 40 or 4 months, because if you work 40 hours a week for 4 weeks, you got 160 hours a month. So yeah, just a little bit under 10 months actually. You know, or however you do it. Some people say, Phil, but I've done overtime. Yeah, however you do it, as long as you can back up the hours that you claim over a period of time, you're good. But I'll say target roughly 10 months, roughly, and you should be good. So again, secondary school diploma and 1,500 hours of professional experience on a project team. All right. The next category, let's say you've not worked on a project team, it means you've got a high school diploma and 23 hours of formal education in project management. So if you fit into either of those two categories, you are eligible to take the CAPM exam. Some people say, Phil, I'm just out of high school, I've got a secondary school diploma, but I don't have 1,500 hours of project management, experience being on a project team. You don't need that if you've got the 23 hours of project management education. So where can you get the 23 hours of project management education? There are lots of education providers all around the world that can give you that experience or that can give you those hours if you train with them. All right, so I would recommend if you're looking for project management training for the CAPM exam, just check out our channel. Just go to the web address that is associated with the channel. It's called praizion.com. All right. If you have any questions about these requirements I've shared for the CAPM, please let me know. Shoot a message down below, or you can even ask a message right now if you're watching real time. All right. So that is for the CAPM exam. The next set of folks are those who are eligible for a different exam called the PMP exam. But before I go over to the PMP exam, I want to make sure you got that link. If you missed it, here's the link. It's tinyurl.com/CAPM Handbook. All right? That's for people that are interested in the CAPM exam. Now, before I talk about the other exams, some people say, Phil, why do I need to go for the CAPM? It's like a beginner's exam. That's not true. I am a CAPM certified project manager. I've taken the exam twice, once in 2011 and once in 2016. And I can tell you the exam is definitely not a cakewalk. It is a professional exam for people who want to begin getting into project management. I had a student once actually who took the CAPM exam, and after getting CAPM certified, she went on to get in a fantastic job with one of the government agencies in Arizona. And she pretty much stretched that position to the max for the 5 years, because the CAPM, every 5 years, you need to recertify. So when she was getting to the end of her 5 years, she said, Phil, my goodness, I've done what I didn't even imagine I would do with the CAPM. I need to take it up a notch and get into the PMP, So she had a very high level position. Having the CAPM is a great way for you to get entry into a lot of organizations, and it's a great way for you to prove yourself, that you've got what it takes to become a project manager. All right, so for the folks who sent in those questions about the CAPM, I'm hoping that this answers the questions that you had. One more thing I'd like to point out to you is the breakdown of the exam and the cost of the exam. So the cost of the CAPM exam, you can get this if you're looking at the handbook that I asked you to download. It's on page 10, and you've got different categories. You could be doing a paper-based test, or you could be doing a computer-based test. But hey, wait a minute. Here's the good news about the CAPM. Right now, there's the availability of taking the CAPM in the comfort of your own home. Right there in the comfort of your home, all you need to do is crack open the computer, and the PMI will give you all the details, and you can take the CAPM exam right there at home. Isn't that fantastic? You don't even need to go to a test center anymore. You could if you wanted to, but if you wanted to take the CAPM at home via remote proctoring, you could also do that. All right, what does it cost to take the CAPM exam? Now, the CAPM exam is cheaper if you are a member of the PMI. If you are not a member of the PMI, you're going to pay a little bit more. So, online proctored tests. If you are a member of the PMI, it will cost you $225. If you are not a member of the PMI, it will cost you $300. Okay? And if you look at page 10, you can see both the paper-based test and the online proctored test and center-based test are all the same price. So whether you take it at home, whether you take it online, or whether you take a paper-based test, they all cost the same. $225 if you are a member. If you are not a member, $300 regardless the category. But to take the paper-based test, folks, you must be eligible for a paper-based test. In other words, there is no ability to take a test within so many miles of you. So you need to look into the details for that. Besides, I wouldn't really recommend a paper-based test for the CAPM exam. I would recommend an online test based on my experience and based on what a lot of people have shared with me. I would definitely recommend going into a proctored center to take it online. It's probably easier for most people in that way. How much does it take to retake the exam? How much does it cost? To retake the exam is $150 if you are a member of the PMI. If you're not a member, it's $200. Hopefully you won't have to do that, okay? So that's it for the cost and the breakdown of the exam. The CAPM exam is a 3-hour exam and there are 150 questions. You can get this information in the handbook on page 16. All right, so like I said, there are 150 exam questions. There are 15 pre-test questions, and those pre-test questions don't count. So really, you're being graded on 135 questions. Now, the PMI uses a method known as the Angoff cutoff technique. And the Angoff cutoff technique is one in which there's a sort of sliding scale across time. So if Phil is taking the exam at a period where everyone is getting in the 80s, Phil probably cannot expect to pass the exam if he's getting in the 50s and 60s. So it's a sliding scale based on performance over time. But we don't have every single bit of those parameters. PMI knows that. It's kind of like a closely guarded secret across all the exams. The passing score once upon a time was shared back in 2004, 5, but it stopped around 2009 or 10. Can't remember the exact year. But there was a year where it now became based on proficiency. Are you proficient? Are you below proficient? And then it got switched to, are you on target, right where your peers are, the average, or are you above target? It changed to that configuration. But there's a lot more to talk about regarding the scoring, which I don't think we really need to get into. The CAPM exam is based on a book called the PMBOK Guide. It's a standard published by the PMI. Currently, it's on the 6th edition. So if you're studying for the CAPM exam, you want to be reading the book that is the 6th edition. The exam is going to be based on the 6th edition. So other versions of the PMBOK Guide, like the 5th edition, 4th edition, 3rd edition, don't study any of those, please, for your own good. Those are like poison. You don't want to study those. All right, what else do we have to talk about? If there are questions, let me know. Let's shift gears here to the next exam. And again, if you're just joining, a couple of weeks ago, I put out a video on the basics of project management. And I got some questions in, people saying, Phil, I don't know anything about these certifications. How do I get certified? So this is to help those folks who have got questions about the CAPM exam, which I've just talked about, or the PMP, which I'm about to talk about. All right, so for the PMP, you want to go to this next link, tinyurl.com/PMP Handbook 1. See that? tinyurl.com/PMP Handbook 1. Okay? Now let's talk about the PMP exam. The PMP exam is the exam that everyone, when I say everyone, I mean most people, are keen on taking. Even those who are really qualified for the CAPM, they seem to be more interested in the PMP because it's the most popular project management exam in the world. If you take a look at the footprint of people that are certified, it's staggering. I mean, it's worldwide, it's huge. The last time I checked, there were over 850,000 PMPs in the world. That's almost going on 1 million. That's a significant number, folks. So if you're thinking of taking the PMP exam, one more time, go to tinyurl.com/PMP Handbook 1, download the handbook, read all of the information in there, and it's going to help you. Now you may wonder, who's this guy and what does he know about the PMP exam? I took my PMP exam in 2005. I studied for about 6 months to get certified. And the moment I got out of the exam, I started training my colleagues and other people, and then I started creating content to help people pass the exam. So it's going on about 13 years now that I've been helping people across the world get certified, various government agencies and various organizations in the world. So I do know a thing or two about the PMP exam, and I've also learned from my students' mistakes, what to do and what not to do. All right, so first of all, let's talk about who is qualified to take the PMP exam. This is on page 6 of the PMP Handbook. The PMP Exam Handbook looks something like that. So if you followed me to the right link, you should have arrived at that page. And if you go to the section on page 6, it talks about what you need to get certified. So I'm just going to read directly from the handbook. It says, to be eligible for the PMP certification, you must meet certain educational and professional experience requirements. All project management experience must have been accrued, watch this, within the last 8 years. Consecutive years. So all project management experience for the PMP exam must have been accrued within the last 8 consecutive years prior to your application submission. So people who got a ton of experience in the 1990s, that won't count, folks. It's very unfortunate that lots of people would like to take the PMP exam, but they just fall short of a few years or a few hours. That's unfortunate, but my recommendation would be if your experience dates far back, you might want to look for some project management volunteer work that you can do for organizations like the PMI or the department for any of those government departments. I would recommend looking into any of those government agencies. For example, I've done volunteer work for a government agency here in the US, and all it requires is paperwork for you to fill in and so on, but you can get experience even as a volunteer. You might want to think about that if you don't have enough experience. Maybe you don't even have a job and you're looking to get a job. Why don't you look for some volunteer work, maybe work for the PMI. Lots of people do it, and that will help you get the hours you need. But let's dig a little bit deeper into the content here. So it says the first category are those that have a secondary degree, a high school diploma is what they mean, or an associate's degree and the global equivalent of that. And it states you need project management experience along with that high school diploma or associate's degree or the global equivalent. You need project management experience, a minimum of 5 years, which is 60 months of unique, non-overlapping professional project management experience. And it says during which at least 7,500 hours was spent leading and directing the project. So this is a beefy amount of experience that you need if you do not have a 4-year degree or the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. All right, and then in addition to that, you also need 35 contact hours of formal education. I see one of my friends who is a PMP just joined. So Biren, thank you very much for your shout out. I hope you're doing good. Biren is a PMP, and he obviously went through this whole process of sending in his application, etc. So Biren, if you want to share any lessons learned through your PMP application experience with the folks who are on the call right now, feel free to just let them know your experience in applying for the exam, and some folks may have questions for you as someone who may have gone through this very recently. All right, so thank you very much. So first category, secondary school diploma, no 4-year degree, secondary school diploma or associate's degree, same bucket. PMI wants 5 years of unique, non-overlapping professional project management experience, during which 7,500 hours was spent leading and directing the project. You see that? So it's one thing to have 5 years of unique, non-overlapping project management experience, but it's something else to have the 7,500 hours. So you want to, be careful with that. Make sure you've got the 7,500 hours and the 5 years of non-overlapping professional project management experience. All right, and on top of that, you need the 35 contact hours. So someone says, Phil, where do I get the 35 contact hours? Go to the channel, it's called Praizion, at praizion.com. Sign up for PMP Exam Prep Camp if you need hours for your PMP exam. Next category of people are those that have a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree or the global equivalent. One of my students said, Phil, I've got a PhD. What do I do? It's the same bucket. So at least a 4 years bachelor's degree or the bachelor's degree. Some people spend less than 4 years, So those 4 years that you have, be it master's degree, bachelor's degree, doctorate, all the same bucket, all right? So PMI wants that, the bachelor's degree, and on top of that, a minimum of 3 years, which is 36 months of unique, non-overlapping professional project management experience, during which at least 4,500 hours was spent leading and directing the project. And note, in the beginning, I said, all the experience that you're putting into your application must have been acquired within the past 8 years, no more. Okay? And those of you who are our students, maybe you're on our curriculum and you have a question about your application. Well, send in your questions if you're one of our students. In fact, you know what? Send in your application. Now, if you're not our student, unfortunately, I will not be able to do this for you. But if you've signed up for PMP Exam Prep Camp and you want some advice, regarding the application, because I've helped all sorts of people with the application. Some who are totally clueless about where to start, some who have started and the PMI have kicked back the application because they didn't follow the golden rule of the PMP application, people who put in their best but they just didn't cut it because they were busy giving PMI technical babble instead of hardcore project management experience in the application. I've helped everyone, those who have been audited and kicked back, those who have received a soft audit. So students of ours, please do not hesitate. One of the things I would hate to see is for you to be on our course and give PMI a shoddy application that we could have actually helped you with. All right? In fact, there's samples of how you can properly frame and craft what you have done in project management. Instead of telling the PMI how you were involved in coding and testing, that's not the piece they're looking for. That is not project management. Engineering drawings is not project management. Coding is not project management testing. That is what you're doing to get the work done, you see, but it's not managing the project. And that's why a lot of people fail in the application, because they're telling PMI how they built a skyscraper somewhere in New York and how they programmed this, that, and the other. Be careful, folks. So I hope this gives you some tips. There's a difference between saying, I managed the project, I got the team on the same page, I created a project charter, I created project documentation, compared to saying, I coded. I coded for 5 hours every day. PMI is going to kick back your application so quick, So bear in mind, what you're doing to manage the work is different from doing the work. Okay? I hope that gave some clarity on that. So going back to our requirements, folks, you've got two big buckets, okay? Either you've got a secondary school diploma and then 5 years of experience and then 7,500 hours leading and directing the project with 35 hours of project management training, or you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, and in addition to that, 3 years, which is 36 months of unique non-overlapping project management experience, during which 4,500 hours was spent leading and directing the project, and 35 contact hours of formal education. Now I'm going through this very painstakingly. I know it's very slow, but I'm hoping that you're following along on page 10, I beg your pardon, of page 6 of the document. Those of you joining, if you are looking to get certified, you get the handbook here, tinyurl.com/PMP Handbook 1, the number 1, okay? Going through this painstakingly is going to help you with questions. Now, if you are in doubt about whether you are eligible for the exam or not, it tells me that you're one of those folks who is not sure about what the PMI is saying, right? Even though it's on paper, it may not be very clear. The PMI is not saying, Phil, for you to be a PMP, you must have managed projects, and every project you manage, you must have done initiating and planning and executing and monitoring and controlling and closing on every single one of those projects. If you only did executing, Phil, on a project, you're disqualified. No, that is not what PMI is saying. But at a minimum, on every project that you work on, PMI wants to see that you were actually managing the project across any of those process groups. So for example, someone on project 1 was only involved in initiating, but managing the initiating section. Project 2, managing, let's say, the planning and executing section. Project 3, managing the monitoring and controlling section, cranking out all the reports, basically doing project controls. Project 4, doing closing. With that across various projects, you are still eligible for the exam if your hours and the time frame totals what the PMI is looking for. You get what I'm saying? So if it totals what the PMI is looking for, you are eligible. If it does not total what the PMI is looking for, whether you are degreed or not, then perhaps you need to go back and look for some additional experience to be qualified. All right, so if you have any questions about the CAPM or the PMP, post them here, okay, in this video, down below. Just shoot your questions to me, and I would be more than happy to get back to you with answers. Again, I would only look at applications for those on our course, but if you have questions about, what does a PMI mean? Am I eligible for this one or that one? I'd be more than happy to get back to you. Now, for the PMP exam, some folks may have the question, how much does it cost? So let's talk about the cost for the exam, okay? The cost for the exam is covered on page 11. So here are the different categories. Now, unfortunately, the PMI is not there yet, and I don't know if they will ever get there, where you can take the PMP exam in the comfort of your home. Wouldn't that be great if you could? But high stakes exam, the PMI, I really don't know if the PMI are going to do that in the future. So it's there for the CAPM. You can take it at home. You got a good camera that's focused on you. It will be focused on you for the duration of the exam, basically recording how you interact and how you behave in front of the exam. Also recording your screen, recording your screen and just monitoring what you're doing. That's pretty cool. I actually took an exam in that fashion, the Prince 2 exam. I actually did that, and I actually found it to be quite refreshing to take the exam in your chosen environment, in your house, in your space, without having the Prometric, our friends at Prometric, milling up and down, but some people can't sit down for straight 3 hours because of biological conditions and other things. But for my Prince 2 exam, I actually took it in the comfort of my home. It was great. So those of you taking the PMP, here's the breakdown, all right? So I see my friend Maya. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate you. I hope this is adding value and helping you wherever you are in your process. And hey, if you've got friends that are taking the exam, please refer them to this video for clarity, for motivation. Maybe it will help one or two people who are clueless about the PMP exam. But anyway, and Biren, thank you very much for all your chats. I'm going to come back to that and review some of what you've chatted in, and I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing your channel, by the way. All right, so if you are a member of the PMI, it costs you $405 to take the PMP exam. If you're not a member, it costs $555. Someone says, Phil, how much does it cost to be a member? To be a member, I believe on the first occasion, it will cost you $129 plus an additional $10, if I'm not mistaken. So that will total $139. For your renewal every subsequent year, which you don't have to be a member of the PMI for the duration of your PMP lifespan. But if you wanted to be a member subsequent years, they won't charge you the extra $10. I will say that it does pay to be a member if you've taken as many exams as I have, taken about 6 of those things. One of my exams was in the thousands because you had to take a course, you had to take multiple exams, and it all added up very quickly, actually, for my OPM 3 exam. The other exams were pretty much in the same region of $500, but the PMI has discontinued the OPM 3. And that has not been replaced with anything. But anyway, that is pretty much the breakdown of how much it would cost. Now, what is the PMP exam all about? My goodness, how many minutes have you got? Because if I start, I might go till tomorrow. So I have to make it short and sweet. Okay, the PMP exam is also based on the PMBOK guide, currently on the 6th edition. But it's based on the PMBOK guide, and it cuts across all of the chapters. It cuts across all of the 14 chapters of more like an introduction, the project environment, the environment in which projects operate, the role of the project manager, and then integrating the project, managing scope on the project, managing the schedule on the project, managing cost, managing quality, managing resources, managing communications on the project, managing risk, managing procurements, managing stakeholder engagement on the project. So that pretty much is the gamut of all of these things, it will test you across all of the chapters, you see. But it won't do it chapter by chapter by chapter. It will do it by process group. So that first video that I shared, where some of the questions came from, I tackle how project management is broken out into initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. The PMP exam will be according to those breakdowns, according to those categories. And this is covered on page 16 of the document. So if you take a look at page 16, you can see the breakdown, from initiating to closing. Yes, we can see we've got some chats coming in here. Let's take a look. Let's see. All right. So we obviously have a few folks who are clueless, wandering around, um, and totally oblivious, to what project management is, which is very unfortunate. I wonder why such individuals waste time coming to a channel like this. But I really feel sorry for them, people wandering around aimlessly on YouTube. It's amazing that some people actually write programs, bot programs, to just, be a total nuisance on YouTube. But anyway, hopefully that will take care of the nuisance. I'm sorry if the message offended anyone. But taking a look here at page 16, if you take a look at initiating the project, that's 13%, right, of your exam, planning 24% of the exam, executing 31% of the exam, monitoring and controlling 25% of the exam, and closing 7% of the exam. And that all adds up, to the 100% of the exam. So executing is a big area. If you want to know more about how the exam is broken out, the landscape of the exam, just search the Praizion channel. All right, you're going to find a lot of information that can help you. All right, so that pretty much concludes what I wanted to share with you about how to get certified. If you want to get certified on the CAPM exam, again, go to the website. It's all going to be the same website, and the course for both is very similar, but the questions on the PMP exam, I can tell you they're very, very, very situational and a lot harder than the CAPM exam. All right, so if you're looking to take the exam, any of the exams, PMP or CAPM, just go to the website, praizion.com, praizion.com, okay? Check that out, and you'll be able to get some information about how to get certified. All right, I really advise if you are looking for a course where you'll be engaged, where it will be fun, at the same time, and a pleasurable experience, you definitely want to go here, whether it's PMP or CAPM, okay? I'm a little bit different from many of the trainers out there. I don't try to fluff over what I don't know. If I don't know, I tell you I don't know, but I look for answers for you. It's also very ad hoc in some instances. I don't have a script rolling behind the camera like a lot of people do, and it's a voice talent, that has no idea about what project management is. That is not how this course is, I've been managing projects for going to 2 decades now. Let me put it at 2 decades so I don't date myself. But I've managed projects across various industries: engineering, aerospace, defense and space, IT, healthcare, and I've trained lots of firms worldwide, government agencies in different countries, organizations that do everything as diverse as making cosmetics all the way to making certain classified gadgets for military operations. I've trained lots of firms. And I can tell you, this course will really help you with your project management awareness and understanding, because all through I'm dropping various nuggets about project management in general, all right? Not just for the PMP exam. We also have Agile sufficiently covered. If you're looking at taking the PMP, Agile is now a very important aspect that people should be aware of. This weekend, I have one of my bosses. I call my students PMP bosses, just if you hear the term and you're like, what's he talking about? I call them my bosses because they bossed up and they got PMP certified. So this weekend, I have one of my PMP bosses speaking to us. If you come aboard the course, and you want to be part of that webinar, just send an email and say, hey Phil, I would like to be part of the webinar. I've come aboard the course. I'd like to know more. And I'm sure you'll be able to ask all the questions you have, be able to ask her, Lindsay, the questions you have about the PMP exam, which she just absolutely obliterated the exam, just like I expected. Anyway, if you have questions, now would be a good time. I'm going to take a few of these comments, and I appreciate those of you who chatted in. So let me take a look. So Maya, thank you for that. Biren said, I want to develop my career as a professional trainer for PMP. Fantastic. What all things would I require to be prepared with? You know what it is, Biren? You got to keep on hitting the PMBOK guide. Keep on studying the PMBOK guide. Keep on reading it, mastering it, understanding the core essence of the PMBOK guide. The more you've got it in your head, the more you're going to be able to convert real world to PMI and PMBOK guide terminology, because a lot of people, they don't really know the essence of the PMBOK guide. They've got a rough idea, but they don't know all the nuts and bolts. As a trainer of this stuff, you got to be all over it. You got to know it in your sleep. You got to know the core framework. And it's unfortunate that a lot of trainers don't know the core framework of the PMBOK guide. So they're always opening up the PMBOK guide, referring to it without knowing things, naturally, and without being able to link them naturally. So when I train this course, I do my best to link real world to PMBOK. And Biren, that is what I would suggest. Link real world to PMBOK, okay? If you can get PMBOK guide into your head and you can marry any real world scenario across any industry to the PMBOK guide, you'll be a very effective trainer. All right. I'm coming with lessons learned on my YouTube channel shortly. Very good. Very good, Biren. Thank you. Awesome. 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 Maya, thank you very much for your comments. Maya says, I love that you are generally so kind and passionate about your field and helping others. You are a very blessed individual. Thank you very much. I recently found your video and I am doing CAPM exam. Wow, you're doing your CAPM in 3 weeks. Stay tuned, Maya. I'm going to give you some tips for your CAPM exam. Don't go away. So you said you're doing the CAPM in 3 weeks and then the PMP in a few months. Awesome. So watching your videos are very guiding for me. I'll be telling my classmates about your website. Thank you. New subscriber, by the way, and will stay tuned to future videos and watching your older ones. Thank you very much, Maya. So let me give you some breakdown for your CAPM exam. I believe that's the gamut of the input that I got, with the exception of an irrelevant chat. So those of you watching the video after the fact, you might see some chat withheld. It's probably a bot. So Maya, let's talk about your CAPM exam, and I'll tell you my experience on the CAPM exam. Both experiences I had, it was an eye-opener because I had been training a lot of students for the CAPM exam, and these students had been telling me, Phil, this stuff is not as easy as you think. It's not just a head knowledge exam. It still requires that you think. And I really didn't understand what they meant until I started, digging into the world of the CAPM exam, taking the exam once and then twice. My last CAPM exam was in 2016. It wasn't a cakewalk, It still will put some pressure on you as you're taking that exam. So, Maya, if you take a look at page 17 of the CAPM Handbook, and just so we're on the same page, the CAPM Handbook looks something like this. All right, it's that greenish one. So if you're taking a look at page 17 in the CAPM Handbook, it breaks down the exam into these chapters. So it goes straight into chapter 3, and it says 15% of the questions are from chapter 3, 12% from chapter 4, 5%, 11% from chapter 5, 12% from Chapter 6, 7% from Chapter 7, 8%, 6% from Chapter 8, 8% from Chapter 9, 6% from Chapter 10, 9% from Chapter 11, 7% from Chapter 12, and 7% from Chapter 13. So the biggest by far is Chapter 3. Now, while this is the latest CAPM handbook out there, Maya, I'm actually questioning what I'm seeing in the table. I think this, yeah, there may be a more recent, in fact, I believe there is a more recent breakdown of this. So let me look on PMI's website because I think there is a more recent exam breakdown. So I'm going to go to PMI's site and check this out. So let me actually go to a different document. It's the CAPM, and those of you watching, you can also do this. It's the CAPM Exam Content Outline. CAPM Exam Content Outline. So let me go to that on Google. Okay, there it is. I'm going to click on that. It's a PDF. It looks like this. Those of you who are following along. So the CAPM Exam Content Outline, this is the May 2018 publication. Yep, so this is going to be more current. So you can scratch what I said because apparently I just remembered as I was reading that in the handbook is not completely matching the content outline, which is more recent. So let me break it down by the content outline. Maya, let me know, do you have this document? Have you seen this document for the CAPM exam? Because if you haven't, I want to recommend that you download this and study it. There we are again. See it? The CAPM exam content outline. This is the blueprint on which the CAPM exam is based. So let's read it. We go to the first section on page 5, I believe it is. Oh, page 4. It states Introduction to Project Management, which is chapter 1. So chapter 1 is 6%, and it states understand the 5 project management process groups and the processes within each group. Recognize the relationships among projects, programs, portfolios, and operational management. Define a typical project lifecycle and understand the function and importance of tailoring. This stuff is getting pretty intense on the CAPM exam, to be honest. But anyway, that's chapter 1. Chapter 2, 6% of the exam from the project environment. Chapter 3, yeah, it's a lot less now. 7%, the role of the project manager. Project integration management, 9%. Project scope management, another 9%. Project schedule management, another 9%. Project cost management, 8%. Project quality management, which is chapter 8, 7%. Project resource management, chapter 9 is 8%. Project communications management, 10%. Project risk management, chapter 11 is 8%. Project procurement management is 4%. And project stakeholder management is 9%. So folks, if you really wanted the breakdown for what is on the CAPM exam, you need to go to that link. And I want to make sure I hot link this for those folks who may find it hard searching Google. I'm going to try and create a hot link right this moment so you'll be able to find this document. So let me do that for you. Okay, I'm going to make this tinyurl.com/CAPM CAPM outline. CAPM outline. Okay. Let's see if that works. tinyurl.com/CAPM outline, all one word. So let me write that down for you. tinyurl.com/CAPM outline, all lowercase. Okay, that's it right there. tinyurl.com in red, you see that? /CAPM outline. And that shows you the breakout of the exam. Okay, Maya, because what I showed you initially is it's been updated. I think the PMI may still be in the process of updating the CAPM Handbook, but they've updated the content outline. Those of you taking the PMP exam as well, be aware that there's a CAPM and PMP content outline, okay? Be aware of that. Okay, Biren said, how can I impart PDUs? Can you guide me regarding the procedure? So Biren, for PDUs, again, if we go to our PMP Handbook, there are many opportunities for PDUs, Biren. You can get PDUs from teaching the syllabus. And when I say the syllabus, by teaching people the syllabus for the PMP or CAPM exam. You can get PDUs by attending webinars. You can get PDUs for writing books. You can get PDUs for doing research. But the bottom line is the PMI's breakdown of how many PDUs you need in each category. And I have a very elaborate video that covers this on the channel, talking about how you can get PDUs across all of these areas for the PMP exam. For the CAPM, you don't need PDUs. You only need to retake your exam every 5 years. But for the PMP, the ACP, the RMP, the SP, the PGMP, all of those, you're going to have to get PDUs that match PMI's requirements for the specific certifications. All right, now, like I said, I had covered this in great detail in a previous video. So I would recommend go watch that video because it went really in depth into the PDUs broken out by leadership, strategic and business management, and technical project management. So that may be a video you want to watch, Biren. It might be much quicker and more thorough if you watch that video. So you might want to just Google Praizion, how to get your PDUs, and I think you should be able to find that if you Google it. All right, and if you can't find it, I will post it in the video after we're done. Let me just check really quick. How to get your PDUs. It's quite a detailed video. Okay, so it's the second video that comes up. How to earn PDUs to keep your PMP cert. Posted October 29th. Yep. So if you watch that video, Biren, you'll be able to get the information you're looking for. But just bear in mind, for the PMP exam PDUs, you can get PDUs in a variety of ways. And if you are a member of the PMI, Biren, are you attending those webinars that the PMI are putting out? Because PMI are putting out videos, webinars on a weekly basis. Weekly, monthly. I've attended quite a number of these webinars, and I've gotten quite a number of PDUs for my different certifications by watching some of those webinars. I also get PDUs anytime I train classes in project management or for the PMP exam or leadership, that kind of stuff. So I would encourage you, Biren, look at, anytime you create content for your channel, that is giving back, to the community. So you want to log it, you want to take an account of how much time you spent doing it, and just follow PMI's instruction for logging it. And anytime you watch videos online or you study project management by watching some video online, just make sure you log it. And you also want to log the reason for doing it, because if PMI audit your PDU submissions, which they do, they've done it for me in the past. But if the PMI do that, then at least you've got backup documentation, that logs when you studied, whatever you studied, why you did, what you got from it, so on and so forth. Because I've had my PDUs kicked back before, and I had to present that information for the PMI. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me, folks. This, was pretty much for those folks who ask questions. How do I get PMP certified? How do I get CAPM certified? It's one thing to find yourself in project management, but it's another thing to get certified in a relevant certification so that you can be relevant in the marketplace. Believe it or not, a lot of PMs, people who manage projects, they get an even higher salary because they've got a certification behind them. It's been proven time and time again, and there are documents on PMI's website that prove this. Before I got certified, my salary was at a particular level, but after getting certified, it went up 300%, not 100%, 300, which means I was making 3 times what I was making before I got certified, after I got my PMP. So I want to encourage you folks, that's the new world of project management we live in. Those with the certifications, they get more money. And why do they get more money? They get more money because it has been proven that successful projects, over 80% of the time, I believe the number is 89% of the time, are managed by a credentialed project manager. So if you're a credentialed project manager, note I didn't say PMP, credentialed project manager, the likelihood of project success is a lot higher than if you were not, a lot higher. All right, so thank you very much for your audience. Again, if you've got questions, drop them below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you found this useful, do me a favor and click a thumbs up. That will help the video to be found by more people around the world. It will also help us add more value to other folks. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.